This is Eyewitness News, the news leader, with Bill Ritter and Liz Cho. Scott Clark with sports, and Lee Goldberg with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Now, Eyewitness News at 11.
Is everybody out of the car? Listen to me! Okay. Is everyone out of the car?
A deadly and fiery crash that shocked a community to its core. Tonight, the fear and confusion in their voices caught on newly released 911 tapes.
And you buy a new cell phone for your child, but you find softcore porn already loaded on it. Tonight, what you can do to keep your kids from ever seeing it. Good evening, everyone, at 11 o'clock. I'm Bill Ritter.
And I'm Liz Cho. We'll have more on those stories in just a minute, but we begin with another night of dangerously cold weather.
We have several reports tonight, but we're going to begin with meteorologist Lee Goldberg. He is out in it, braving the freeze, and it is freezing out there, below freezing, Lee.
Bill, on the Upper West Side, 16 degrees, a wind chill of 6. And I'm going to tell you that the brunt of the cold is past us, and technically that's true. It doesn't mean very much when I say that, because you know what? It's still a menacing chill out here. Here are some cold weather facts. You know, we looked back, and we've had a couple of mornings in the single digits. That's the first time since 2003 we've had single-digit temperatures in February. As we move on, this cold, I mean, it definitely has some staying power. Below freezing since Saturday. And you know what? 16 of the last 21 days have been below normal. Temperatures right now are through the teens. There's some clouds moving in, and temperatures won't drop too much more, but it is bitter cold, 3 in Monticello. Your wake-up wind chills, prepare for these. Yes, the winds will be a little lighter tomorrow morning, but still wind chills near 0 and about 5 to 10 below in the northwest suburbs. I ran outside without a hat, thank goodness for my crew, and thank you for this get up here. Now I'm going to start listening to my forecast. Live from Moscow, the Upper West Side, I'm Lee Goldberg. Bill, Liz?
Lee, that is quite a hat they gave you, too. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks a lot. And while we are in the middle of this deep and dangerous freeze, Mayor Bloomberg tonight ordering that several warming centers open their doors. But interestingly, when we visited many of those centers, they were completely empty. Lucy Yang continues our coverage. She's at one of those centers in Harlem. Lucy.
Well, Liz, for the first time ever, the city used information from its heat hotline center to better respond to those without heat. For example, they took a look at where there was the greatest concentration of complaints and opened warming centers in those pockets instead of an arbitrary centrally located place. Great idea, great effort, but the results? Well, take a look for yourself.
There were plenty of warm seats, hot drinks, and snacks. There were Red Cross volunteers, a city nurse, and social worker for the homeless. So what's missing in this picture? There were no freezing people to help. This was the scene earlier this evening in Flushing, Queens at the Bland Houses Community Center. How do you explain the lack of turnout?
I couldn't really tell. It's true that the mayor made his announcement just a few hours ago, so it's still quite early.
The same for this center in Harlem at the King Towers Public Houses. A nice, cozy community room, lots of staff waiting to serve, but again, no takers. We asked residents why.
I don't know why, sister. I can't explain that.
What I do, keep the oven open.
You'd rather do that than come to a community center?
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
Yesterday, there was a near-record number of complaints to the city's heat hotline, 4,620. Today, they received more than 3,600 calls for a lack of heat. In response, the city announced 9 warming centers would be opened all night, so those suffering at home in the cold could come to one of these projects to thaw. 2 warming locations in each borough, 1 in Staten Island.
Everybody likes the center. I think that they go over there if they didn't have heat, but I don't know if anybody knows about it.
Now, if you'd like to know where all the warming centers are, you can log on to 7online.com for a complete listing. A city spokesperson did tell me tonight that traditionally they get a much better turnout at cooling centers during a heat wave than warming centers during a cold spell. We're live in Harlem. Lucy Yang, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Lucy, thank you. Not much of a response to these warming centers in New York City, but in New Jersey, something of a different story. In New Brunswick, New Jersey, Elijah's Promise Soup Kitchen. They've been handing out blankets and coats to people in need to keep warm. There was a good response there. And several churches and synagogues in New Brunswick are taking turns opening the doors to give people a place to sleep and eat tonight.
And the bitter cold temperatures are also making the job tough for firefighters. making it even harder. Firefighters had to deal with a frozen fire hydrant while trying to put out a fire in the Greenpoint section of Brooklyn. They were able to get it working, but if needed, the fire department has a thawing unit in every borough. They travel to fires to help get the water flowing like they did at that fire. And for more information on the bitter weather, you can log on to our website, 7online.com. You'll find tips on protecting yourself from the cold. You can also get the AccuWeather forecast 24/7.
And now to the other news of the night. We begin with politics and a big political victory tonight for New York State Democrats and another state Senate seat on their side of the aisle. A special election on Long Island pitting Republican Maureen O'Connell versus Democrat Craig Johnson, and tonight Mr. Johnson has won with 54% of the vote. The stakes here are huge in the 7th district. Perhaps that's why Rudy Giuliani and Hillary Clinton each campaigned out there. Long Island reporter Emily Smith in Great Neck with the results. Emily?
Good evening. I can actually hear you right now, but it is very loud and celebratory in here as Craig Johnson right now is giving his victory speech. He says people really need to understand how dramatic and intense this win is for the Democrats, as it has been 100 years since this very seat has been filled by a Democrat. Now, you see him up there. His wife is standing next to him. Nassau County Executive Tom Suozzi is also here, and so is Lieutenant Governor David Patterson. Johnson calls his stop here in Great Neck his first on the way to Albany and says thank you to his constituents for answering his plea to be a Democratic senator.
Today and tonight, you made history. For the first time in 25 years, we've elected a Democrat to the state Senate.
Republican Maureen O'Connell was Johnson's highly contested opponent. She gave her concession speech just moments ago in Woodbury. And I would have liked to let you listen in live on this speech, but it is very, very difficult to hear in here. But again, Johnson is emphasizing how big this is for Democrats, what a big night it is, and that it's giving them the momentum that they want and need to take control of the Republican-dominated Senate. We are live tonight in Great Neck. Emily Smith, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Emily, thank you. And there will be another special vote tomorrow, this one for a New York State Controller. Sources tell Eyewitness News lawmakers will defy Governor Spitzer and elect Assemblyman Thomas DiNapoli to fill the vacant office. Spitzer says electing an assemblyman would be a mistake. He wants lawmakers to choose one of the 3 candidates that a panel of former controllers suggested. Vote is tomorrow afternoon in Albany.
From the New York State Capitol in Albany, 175 miles south to the New Jersey State Capitol in Trenton, where tonight a sweeping property tax relief plan now sits on Governor Corzine's desk. Today, the state Senate approving a bill that's going to significantly cut property taxes, which are, by the way, the highest in the nation. The bill would give most homeowners a 20% property tax cut this summer, and future tax cuts would be capped at 4% a year. The governor is expected to sign the bill.
Tonight, investigators are trying to figure out what started a large fire at a cement company in Queens. Newscopter 7 was over the 2-alarm fire on Austell Place in Long Island City. More than 100 firefighters were forced to deal with the freezing cold temperatures while fighting the fire. Fortunately, though, there were no injuries.
As we continue on this Tuesday night, a community rocked by a horrible car crash.
Major accident, the car's on fire. The car's on fire, it's a major accident.
Still to come tonight, the chilling 911 tapes that captured the fear of that day.
Pornography on a cell phone, no internet connection necessary, and it could already be on your son or daughter's cell phone. That story coming up.
Charming. And a police chase ends in a shootout, and it's all caught on camera. That video and more when we come back in 60 seconds.
It has been nearly a month since this horrifying head-on collision that killed 3 high school students and a grandmother in Freehold. It is an accident that truly devastated that community. Well, tonight, for the first time, we are hearing the frantic and emotional 911 calls to try and save those victims. Jim Dolan is here now with more. Jim.
Liz, it's impossible to know what 3 teenagers from Freehold might have become. One hoped to be a doctor, one played baseball, another guitar. We know Ruth MacArthur spent a lifetime helping others as a nurse and then worked with children after she retired. All were killed in an instant, a fiery, explosive instant that scarred 4 families and scores of people who witnessed the crash. Just about all we ever saw was the aftermath, but it was horrifying even after the fact. Lives were lost in the wreckage, young lives that ended in a thunderous head-on collision and an explosion that incinerated both cars.
Major accident, the car's on fire. The car's on fire, the major accident. Is everybody out of the car? Listen to me! Okay, is everyone out of the car? No, I can't see anything. The car's on fire. All I did was call 911.
There were other calls, and from each, the excited 911 operator tried to get more information.
Are they still trapped in the car? I believe so. One car's engulfed. Pretty bad. You better get some people rolling.
3 teenagers died in the car that was driving south on Kozlowski Road on January 10th, just minutes after school let out. The car collided with a school minivan driven by 68-year-old Ruth MacArthur. All died in the crash that has raised questions and concern about teen driving. But that day, when emergency workers got there, all they could see was fire.
Motor vehicle accident. Kozlowski Road, section lane, looks like a head-on collision of the side injuries. People are trapped in the vehicle.
The investigation into the crash continues, though police believe the car carrying the 3 teenagers was probably speeding. There was a